What's going on, everybody? Kalipis Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some camera tips and tricks for the Motorola Moto G 5G. Now, if you want to learn more about this phone, be sure to check out my full review and other tips and tricks videos for it on the channel. And for your convenience, I will be linking to this phone in the video description. So for the latest up-to-date pricing, definitely check that out as well. But with that being said, let's get started. So the first thing I want to show you is how to use the macro camera. So we're on the main camera screen right now, and from here, getting to the macro camera is really simple. All you need to do is hit this flower icon right here, and we are now in the macro camera. Now, one tip I do want to remind you when you're taking macro photos is to make sure you're close enough to whatever you're trying to take a picture of, because if you're not close enough, it's not going to turn out right. Another thing to remember is that when you're done taking macro photos, be sure to press the one right here to get out of macro mode, because if you forget and stay in macro mode, then all your normal photos are going to start looking blurry. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to change the aspect ratio of your photos. So by default, when you first open your camera, the aspect ratio is going to be 3:4. And no matter what phone you have, this is pretty much going to be a standard. But with this phone, we do have several other options. So to change your aspect ratio, all you need to do is tap on the 3:4. And as you can see, we are now in 9:16, or if you go in landscape mode, 16:9. And this is pretty much the ideal aspect ratio if you're taking scenery photos, for example, or maybe a thumbnail for a video or something like that. Then if we tap the aspect ratio one more time, we're going to be in what's called full screen mode. And as the name suggests, this is basically going to be the entire display. And in the case of this phone, that's going to be 20:9. And then if we tap it one more time, we're back to 3:4. Maybe not quite as many options as some other phones, but I'm glad that we still at least get a few here. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Tap Anywhere to Capture. Now, as the name suggests, this feature essentially allows you to take a photo by tapping anywhere on your screen. And this is going to be great if you need to take a photo with one hand, for example, like a selfie, something like that, where using the shutter button itself might be a little uncomfortable. So to get to this feature, we're going to go to Settings. From here, go to Capture Settings. And Tap Anywhere to Capture is right here, toggle it on. And now if we go back to the camera, no matter where I tap on the screen, it's going to take a photo. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to use the grid lines. Grid lines are really useful if you're trying to center something or otherwise line it up. So to get to this feature, we're going to go to Settings, and we're going to go right back to Capture Settings, and toggle on Assistive Grid. Now if we go back to the camera, as you can see, the grid lines are now enabled, and it's a lot easier to see where exactly something's at in the frame. Now maybe you're taking a photo and you don't exactly care about centering something, but you just want to make sure it's level. Maybe you're taking a picture of a sunset, skyline, something like that. Well, there's also a feature called the leveler that you can use instead, which does pretty much just that. So if we go back to the camera, as you can see with the leveler, as the name suggests, it's basically going to tell us when our photo is level. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to get more storage efficient videos. Now with this phone, this is not really going to be a huge deal for most people, because after all, this phone, as you get it unlocked from Motorola at least, comes with 256 gigabytes of internal storage, not to mention the micro SD card expansion if you really need it. So unless you're taking a ton of videos, namely longer ones, you're probably never going to actually have to use this. But that being said, if you want to be as efficient as you possibly can, this is still a useful thing to know about. So what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Videos, and turn on Efficient Videos. With this feature on, instead of recording videos in MP4s, the phone is going to record them in HEVC files, which is essentially a more efficient file type. Now again, this is probably not going to be a huge deal on this phone specifically, because unless you're constantly recording really long videos, this phone really has so much space it's probably never going to be an issue. And this phone can't record in 60 frames per second or 4K or anything like that. So again, the video files, unless they're super long, are not going to be that big to begin with. But at the same time, again, if you want to be as efficient with your space as you possibly can, then recording your videos in HEVC files instead of MP4s is definitely an option. The next thing I'm going to show you is two different shortcuts to open your camera. Now of course, simply opening the camera app is always easy enough, but if you're doing something else on your phone and you're not on your home screen, then there are two alternative ways to do it that are really easy and convenient. So to get to these features, we're going to go to Settings. From here, go to System. From here, go to Gestures. And the first method I'm going to show you is double pressing your power key. Now by default, as you can see right here where it says double press power key, this is actually going to open the Google Assistant, which is definitely useful in its own way, but it's not quite what we want. So to change it, simply tap here, select Launch Camera, and now if we double press the power key, it's going to open the camera instead. The second way I'm going to show you is a feature called Quick Capture. Now this is a really cool feature that's actually on by default, but in case for whatever reason it's not on your phone, this is where you're going to go to turn it on. So Quick Capture is right here. And as you can see, again, it is on this phone, but if it's not on your phone, simply turn it on and it should work just fine. Now with the feature active, all you need to do to open your camera is go like this. And as you can see, the camera opens right up. Now, if you've never used this feature before, the motion might be a little tricky, so let me show you one more time. And there we go, real fast and convenient. Now, when you're in your camera app, you might notice this quick access menu down here. This basically gives you quick and easy access to a bunch of modes that you might use a little bit more often. But if there's certain modes on here that you don't use, and maybe some in the More section that you do use, you can actually customize this. To do this, go to the More section, and simply press and hold on whatever you want to add and drag it onto the bar like this. And if you want to remove something, you can do the same thing. So for example, I want to get rid of slow motion. Drag it into the More section. And there we go. So as you can see, if we go back to the camera, now we got dual capture that I added, and slow motion is now in the More section. Now, like I was saying earlier, this phone does have quite a bit of storage. With 256 gigabytes, you would really need to be taking a lot of photos and videos to ever run out of internal storage. But if you do use a microSD card and you want to make sure all the photos and videos you take end up on the microSD card instead of the phone itself, then this is still an option. So to do this, you're going to go to Settings. From here, go to Save Settings. Since I don't have a microSD card, this is not an option, but if you do, you would be able to select storage and switch the save location in this section to the microSD card, and then all your photos and videos are going to show up on the microSD card instead. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to use your timer. The timer can be a real useful feature if you're, for example, trying to take a picture of yourself with the rear camera, or really anything you want to do hands-free. So the timer icon is right up here on the top of the main camera. All you got to do is tap this icon, and as you can see, now it's at 3 seconds. Tap it one more time, and now it's at 10 seconds, and if you tap it once more, it's going to go back to off. Now the last thing I'm going to show you is how to use your flash. As you can see by this icon, the flash is by default going to be off, but if you tap on the icon once, it's going to turn it to auto, and when the flash is in auto, it's basically going to decide whether or not to use the flash based on your environment. So if you're in a darker area, of course, then the flash is going to go off, but if you're in a well-lit room, for example, then the flash might not go off. Now if you tap the icon one more time, it's going to go to on mode. And in this mode, regardless of the environment, the flash is always going to go off. And from here, you can turn it off by tapping once more. But those were my camera tips and tricks for the Motorola Moto G 5G. As far as features go, as you could probably see, we're not getting a ton here, but I will say for what it is, this phone does take some really high quality photos. So if you do like taking more normal photos, maybe for social media for example, then the Moto G 5G is still going to be a great option. Now if you want to learn more about this phone and its features, be sure to check out my full review of it and other tips and tricks videos on the channel. And again, for the latest pricing, this stuff is always changing, so for that, definitely check out the link in the video description. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next one.